Alright guys, welcome back to, I guess you could call this the Veteran Sunspire Mechanics Guide. Currently we're talking about Yolnahkriin. He's the fire dragon, and usually groups that I've been in typically take out the ice dragon Locestes first, and then wipe up the adds in the treasure chest area before approaching Yolnahkriin. The key percentages to keep an eye out for, as I wrote down here, that's 75%, 50%, and 25%. Those are the percentages when we force Yolnahkriin into the air for flight phase. As you can see here, we have very specific places again for positioning. Myself main tanking Yolnahkriin from the left side, and we have snips. Your stack is going to be on the head. Now keep in mind, little turtle guy, his head is actually faced towards me, but for frame of reference he would be sitting just in front of Yolnahkriin. And then pirate, your stack is going to be on the right wing. There will be 4 DPS per healer stack. And what's interesting here is that we have Caesar way in the back this time, whereas with Locestes you were sort of around the middle area here, just a little middle back. You are definitely at the far end this time. And this comes into play towards the Iron Servants and Flame Atronachs phase. So first and foremost, why are you guys in your stacks? Why do you have 2 separate ones? At certain points within the fight, you will be having a radial AoE around you, and so it'll be pulsing, and that damage has to be shared amongst the group within your stack. And the reason why you don't want to have a 1 stack is because if everybody receives that damage debuff or whatever it is, it will wipe out the whole group. So in essence, you are sharing the damage over half the group, and then the other half will get it, so on and so forth. I'm really struggling to find a way to define it clearer than that, so if you guys wanted to put down in the comments how to explain that better, please go ahead and do so. It'll really help a lot. So anyway, each of these stacks will be sharing damage, and we would continue to DPS Yolnahkriin. What happens is Yolnahkriin is going to call for support. He's going to call for 1 Iron Servant, which I'm going to go ahead and draw over here. So it could just appear anywhere in the field, but I'm going to go ahead and pretend that Caesar's already tanked it or gotten its aggro. And there will be a couple of 2 Flame Atros that will appear on the field, which again, I'm going to say that Caesar has already pulled to himself. This is why chains are incredibly important in this particular fight for the off-tank. Also suggested, highly suggested for the off-tank to be running something like Stonekeepers, which gives you back a whole lot of sustain every 5 seconds, or every 5 charges, I believe it was. Yep. So that way, it is a sustained battle in the back here, and the reason why you want to keep your aggro, or you want to keep these aggroed towards you, Caesar, is if these 2 little Flame Atros draw their, they pay attention to, or go attack anybody in the stack, it eventually becomes a one-shot kill mechanic for any DPS or healer. So you definitely want to keep these guys back here. This by far is one of the hardest fights for any off-tank that I've seen, and determines whether or not, it's one of the determining factors as to whether a group will be able to get past Yolnahkriin. So, yep, pressure's on you, bro. I believe in you. You got this. So going further, or going towards the fight here, and this is also a really big DPS race as well. There's a lot of pressure on the DPS to pump out not just as much damage and be perfect on your rotations, but also positioning. And the reason why I say positioning is because whenever we hit the, the 75, the 50, and the 25% marks, whenever Yolnahkriin goes up and flies, is when most veteran groups die, due to very poor positioning. Another reason for having these stacks is for that. So what I can show you here is that we're going to have Yolnahkriin off the field. He's going to be flying. He's going to be doing his cataclysm, so he bathes the entire arena in fire, and everybody is out on the ridges, right? Where normal we typically are on the outsides. Well, this time both stacks will run to the opposite sides of the Atronax. So we're going to have Snips, your group, positioned there, and Pirate, your group, positioned here. You want to give the Iron Servants a little bit of space because they do throw out a bunch of AoEs on the ground. Same thing with the Flame Atros. Your primary targets during flight phase, this is where you save all your ultimates. Save all your ultimates. I'll say it one more time. Save all your ultimates for these guys. You dump all your ulties on the Flame Atros, get them off the field, and while the Cataclysm is happening, while the field is bathed in fire, these Iron Servants are going to get red hot. And that's extremely dangerous because no tank is able to take that much damage, the increased amount of damage that the Iron Servant pumps out. Which means that bolt stacks, so Snips, you're over here with your stack, stay tightly stacked. It's pixel stacking here, guys, okay? Can't stress it enough. And same with Pirate's group. You guys are going to be super tight on top of each other, bursting these downs as fast as you can, and to make sure that Caesar stays alive. If Caesar dies here, the likelihood of us wiping on Yolnahkriin and having to go over it again and again and again is extremely high. Okay? Hey guys, so that was pretty dumb again. I ended up pressing the stop button as opposed to the pause button. I hope you guys can be patient with me as I learn the ropes. I'm not really media or technology savvy, I believe that's the term. But anyway, so where we left off was we showed you the positioning during Cataclysm or during flight phase with Yolnahkriin. Another thing to keep in mind is this is the reason why a lot of teams will be looking for at least 45k. Or, you know, upwards of 50k. I know there was that Sunspire veteran group that was looking for 50k DPS, and the biggest reason why is because this is a really big pressure cooker type of fight, okay? Earlier I described how there would be one Iron Servant and two Flame Atronax. That's not all you're going to face. As the fight drags on, they will increase, and you'll find your position overwhelmed and overrun with doubles or more. You could have 4, 6, and if the DPS is really bad, I've seen it. We've had like 6 on the field, 8 on the field, and it was an unsalvageable situation. So you definitely don't want that. One way to alleviate this, and again, it depends entirely on DPS. I know that when I posted up, I said that we wanted just 40k, which should be enough. I've seen plenty of groups that, there are plenty of groups that have really high hitting DPS guys and they can't get through it because of these positioning and damage mechanics. I've seen plenty of groups that hit 40k be able to get through this way more successfully, I guess is the best way to put it. But yeah, one way to deal with this situation over here is to have Snips group over here. We're going to call you guys the ranged group. You would literally run as a stack, and I'm going to use the blue marker because I like blue. But yeah, you would reposition yourselves to about here, together. And this takes time. And again, this is difficult for us because we have mostly Stam DPS in our group. Okay? So you're going to run here, and you're going to help out Caesar by wiping out these two Flame Atros. Or help him completely and wipe out the entire Flame Atro group. Now, what does that mean? Now, every time we get rid of a Flame Atro, it creates a flaming pool, right? So it starts to expand, it gets wider and wider and wider. I'm pretty sure people in the audience who see me mixing these two marker colors are going nuts right now, so apologies for that. But anyway, you're going to see 2 growing, or 4, or whatever, growing lava pools, and that's just to get them off of the field to alleviate your tank. Caesar, it really depends, it's really up to you, I should say, after the point where you're able to get those, after DPS is able to clear out those Atros for you, whether you move right or left. In either case, I would say err on the side of caution and move more towards the DPS. But still maintain your distance from Yolnahkriin so you do not get that pulsing AoE around you. Last thing we need is for you to die in the midst of a really tough fight like this. Yeah, so once that is done, I'm just going to go and pause the video here, like actually pause it this time so we can move on to the next part. So I'll see you there. Alright, so just moving along with the fight here. This is assuming that you guys have completely taken out both the Iron Servants and whatever remaining Flame Atros there are during Yolnahkriin's flight phase, and that he's breathed out the fire and basically created a cataclysm in the middle that clears out all the lava for us. Your guys' typical position, or everybody's typical position, will be roughly like this. I'm already on my way to situate myself so I could tank him at the next spot, which is, as you can see, I've drawn up or written up the clock positions. So 12 o'clock, that's a really messed up looking too. And then 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock. At 75%, he's going to fly up, Cataclysm, land at 3, 50%, fly again, Cataclysm, land at 6, and at 25%, go to 9 o'clock. Sorry for the autofocus there, because I'm obviously jabbing my own phone with my marker, but... So, your positioning is going to be very quick, actually. We're going to have Yolnahkriin go over there again. And so once you guys have finished your DPS, or finished taking down the ads, Snips, your group is going to go ahead and return towards the head position of Yolnahkriin. And here, you guys are in the most danger here, obviously, right? So once he lands, coordinate together, and get to that digit, or his joint, or his little thumb. And Caesar, you're going to go ahead and move to the 9 o'clock position. Okay? The fight is basically that. In terms of mechanics, I find that it is a lot simpler to get this done compared to the Lokestes fight, which was quite hectic. You know, for me, I see a lot of things out on the field, from lightning and ice and all that stuff, an ice tomb in the back and all these special effects. It's really jarring for me, even as a tank. But I find that with this fight, even though the mechanics are few and you just gotta repeat it several times around the clock, the biggest thing here that most groups wipe to is, number one, the off-tank having the tough time battling with those Atros, or positioning by DPS and healers. Literally positioning by anyone can get the group killed. For example, if me as the main tank, I'm off to the left just a little too much, I get wing slapped, and that could potentially wipe the group if I land in the oil or whatever, you know? So yeah, biggest two things here, positioning and keeping the tanks alive, basically. So DPS, like I mentioned earlier, pump out as much DPS as possible, or as much damage as possible, and if Caesar calls you, you're to turn around, run towards where the Atros would appear, and help him out, okay? So Caesar groups up all the ads towards 9 o'clock over here in this position, or this scenario, and you will go ahead, wipe them out, come together, always stay stacked, doesn't matter whether you're at the back or at the front, stay stacked, and keep hitting as hard as you can. I hope that made sense. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments or hit me up on Band. I'd be glad to answer them. Anyways, thanks very much, and we'll catch you in the next one.